If Ash Ketchum began his journey in Pokemon Scarlet, could he conquer the Paldea region? To find out, I'll be playing Pokemon Scarlet as Ash Ketchum. This means using only Ash's Pokemon, and to make things even harder, using only the moves that Ash's Pokemon used in the anime. My goals for this challenge are to try and catch all of Ash Ketchum's Pokemon in their correct form and use only these Pokemon to beat the game, with limited Pokemon, limited moves, and a stack of extra rules on top to make the challenge even harder. Could Ash Ketchum become a Paldea champion? Well, let's find out. To start, I tried to make my character look like Ash, but this was the best I could do. Good morning, Ash. Wait, you're not my mum. And where's my dad? Mimey. Ash, you were in a coma for 25 years. That was all a dream. What the... Now we get to pick our starter, but small problem, Ash doesn't have any of these Pokemon. I don't want any of these losers. I want my Pikachu, but I'm forced to pick one. So in the end, I took Sprigatito because it's basically a green Litten. Regardless, I won't be able to use it in this challenge. There's a huge collection of Ash's Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, so let me know in the comments which one is your favorite and I'll give you my answer later on. For now, we also meet Nemona, and based off of Ash's history, I think we're gonna get along just fine. I trust you remember that Ash is wholly inexperienced in battling Pokemon. Excuse me? Don't ignore the 25 years of experience that I got before even turning 11. Once we get Pokeballs, it's time to catch Ash's first Pokemon. No, not you! There's only room for one Piggy in Ash's heart, but there is a Pokemon we can catch just up ahead. Fletchling, Ash's cute little Kalos bird. Welcome to the team. Well, I guess we won't be needing you anymore. F's in the chat for my grass cat. My new Fletchling knows Growl and Peck, but out of these, Ash's Fletchling only used Peck, so Growl is off the table. After slaughtering the local Hoppip population, our little bird reached level 5 and learned an awesome new move, Quick Attack. But Ash didn't use that either, so... Hey Ash, you getting the hang of how to catch Pokemon? Yeah, I think I may have figured it out by now. We find this Koraidon on the beach who is desperate for food. So naturally, I made the obvious choice and fed him my useless Sprigatito. Fixed him right up. Up ahead, we meet Arvin who wants to battle with me, a literal champion. Except I can only use Peck and his squirrel hits way harder than me. So in classic Ash Ketchum fashion, I lost to my rival. You're in serious trouble if you can't even beat someone like me. What do you want from me? All I can do is peck. Soon after, my prayers were answered as I was able to catch Ash's next Pokemon, Buizel. Except, it doesn't have any usable moves yet. I guess it's just nice for Fletchinder to have a friend. Welcome aboard, you speedy little thing. While grinding, I did find an electric mouse Pokemon, just not the one I was hoping for. Oh, come on, now the game is just mocking me. Give me a Pikachu already. I leveled up my team, but none of them learned any usable moves, so I was stuck with only Fletchling for the first fight against Nemona. And I got destroyed. Her Pawmi is an electric type, which is bad news for my little bird. Very quickly, I was handed yet another big fat L. But since Ash Ketchum fails upwards, we can still progress into the central town of Misagoza. I did some shopping here and tried to make my character look a little more like Ash. Oh god, Pikachu, what have they done to you? Now, we all know that Ash Ketchum has 2 singular brain cells, but at least he can stay safe online by browsing with Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of this video. Let me tell you a story. So, there I was last Christmas, shopping for a nice, wholesome present for my mum, but there were so many shady phishing websites. I nearly got scammed because when you click on these enticing ads, you can end up losing money or your personal information. So, I couldn't safely buy my mum that present, and Christmas was ruined. But this year things will be different, because now I do my shopping with Surfshark. By Surfsharking, you reduce your chances of encountering scams while shopping online. Surfshark protects your identity by actually telling you when your personal data has been leaked. It'll also help keep your emails safe, and your internet activity will be encrypted, so no one can track or steal your browsing data. Remember, Santa can see your browsing history, but not if it's encrypted. Surfshark also has a strict policy of not collecting your data whatsoever. So here's the plan. Click the link in the description or use my code on screen before December 31st and you'll get an enormous 85% off, as well as 3 extra months for free when you purchase a 2-year plan. That's insane value, and Surfshark even has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose. Sign up to Surfshark VPN and make these holidays happy and scam-free. Just up ahead, we meet Team Star, who are kinda like Team Rocket, except they dress lamer, don't have an air balloon, and they don't have a talking cat. But the good news is, my fletchling finally found something it can kill. It just feels nice to finally get a win. Nemona then gives us a Terra Orb, and I will absolutely be terastallizing in this challenge, since Ash uses every single gimmick under the sun. We finally make it to the academy, but I don't think Ash is going to be very good at school. I mean, this is the same guy who tried to beat Brock's ground-type Onix with a Pikachu. You have to prove yourself to get the title of champion. Been there, done that, twice. Fortunately for Ash, we don't spend long in the academy, and we're given the 3 goals for our journey. Defeat all 8 gyms, defeat 5 Titan Pokemon, and raid 5 Team Star bases. That's a total of 18 boss fights that Ash's Pokemon will somehow have to overcome. I have no idea how that's going to be possible though, since we can't even beat a little squirrel. Now we're free to explore the world on the back of our running motorcycle. I desperately needed some new Pokemon, but that didn't take long as I immediately chased down and caught Starly, Ash's chief balloon burster in Sinnoh, and this one has some moves that I can actually use. What a king. But I wasn't done yet, because soon after, I found a Riolu. Luckily, I was able to catch it, but this guy is way overleveled, so I'll have to leave it in the PC for now. Regardless, that's a huge find. And after some more exploring, I finally found Pikachu, Ash's ace and OG Pokemon. He's just sitting there vibing. I quickly caught the iconic electric mouse, and now we had our ketchup-loving mascot. While training up the team by giving some Psyduck the electric chair, our Starly reached level 14 and evolved into Staravia. Ash's Staravia loves to battle so much that it gets depressed when it isn't picked to battle. I rolled on into the town of Cortondo when a Heracross. I need it! Pokeball, go! Alright, Heracross, you win this round. The first gym is here, so it was time for Ash to earn his first badge. Since the gym leader, Katie, has 3 Pokemon, that means in this challenge, I'll only be allowed to bring 3 Pokemon too. It's an even fight, just like the anime. So I brought our 2 birds and a cute chubby mouse. With that, I stepped up to the bug leader, Katie. She leads with a Nimble, but 2 super effective pecks from my fletchling are enough to easily take it out. Next is her Tarantula, who does small damage, but is quickly pecked to death. This left Katie with only her Teddiursa, who terastallizes into a bug type, and this thing is no joke. A peck did some damage, but Fury Swipes crushed Fletchling. I went with our ace, Pikachu next, and was able to land a Thunder Shock, which caused paralysis, but sadly, our chubby mouse fell in just 1 turn. So now it was down to a 1v1 as I sent out Staravia. It was down to the wire, but Staravia clutched up, landing a huge wing attack to finally finish off Teddiursa. That's Katie defeated, and Ash's first badge secured. After Pikachu taught the local water types all about electricity, our Weasel reached level 15, and finally learned a move that it can actually use, Water Gun. To reach the next gym, we have to head west from Misagoza. I didn't find any new Pokemon here, but I did spot a shiny Skiddo, which despawned. Are you kidding me? 1 like equals 1 prayer for my shiny Skiddo. I was outraged and decided to direct that anger towards the first Titan, Clorf the Crab King. Now that our Weasel can Water Gun, we were able to decimate the Rock-type crab no problem. With Arven helping us take it down on the second phase, we'd cleared our first Titan. Soon after, we reached Artisan Town, where the windmill runs as smoothly as my life. While leveling, our Fletchling evolved into a Fletchinder, Ash's forgotten fire flying type. After assembling my marching band of missing Sunflora, we were clear to take on the next gym leader, Brassius. He uses grass types, so this was another gym where my birds would need to take charge. Ooh, a whip. Kinda kinky. Brassius leads with a Petalil, who luckily misses its sleep powder, so I quickly finish it off with 2 flame charges. Next up is Smoliv, who is immediately crushed and grinded down into Smoliv oil. Last up is the grass-type Terra Sudowoodo, and this thing is way more problematic. My flame charge barely touches it before Fletchinder is decimated by a quad-effective rock throw. I went with Pikachu next, and wow. Thanks a lot, Pikachu. Except, our little mouse did contribute as its static ability activated, paralyzing Sudowoodo just before Pikachu went down. Once again, it was all down to Staravia. And once again, our boy clutched up with 2 wing attacks being enough to clean up Sudowoodo, giving us a close win over Brassius and our second badge. While traveling to our next objective, I was able to catch Ash's next Pokemon, Phanpy. This little guy is so adorable. Although honestly, I totally forgot it even existed. On top of that, I was also able to find a Rockruff, except this isn't the right one. See, Ash's Rockruff is special since it evolves into a dusk form Lycanroc. This means that I need a Rockruff with the incredibly rare Own Tempo ability. Okay, how do we find that? Well, I read online that it's a rare spawn, so here's my plan. Since the Own Tempo ability blocks Intimidate, I have my Staravia out front and see whether Intimidate activates or not as I encounter each Rockruff. So I got to it. While doing this, I also stumbled across a Goomy, who I quickly caught. What a cute little goo ball. Although, I will never get over how brutal the backstory of Ash's Goomy is. As cute as Goomy is, it has no valid moves yet, so it's pretty much useless for the time being. Although now we had a full team of Ash's Pokemon, which is really cool. Back to Rockruff, and it took me a few tries, but before long, we found one with the Own Tempo ability. With that, I caught Rockruff, Ash's certified good boy, and Rocky Doggy. Ooh, Primate, the legendary hat thief. Let me just get my Pokeballs and... never mind. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Primate. Run! Why does it look like this guy's about to eat his Goomy? Sir, I'm placing you under citizen's arrest. Further along the path, and after dodging these huge balls, we have to take on the Flying Titan. Our mascot, Pikachu, was able to weaken the Titan with some Electro Balls, while also paralyzing it with Static. This cleared the way for Rockruff to come in and clean up the first phase with a few Rock Throws. With our two Rock types teaming up, Arvin and I wrapped up the second phase in no time at all. That's 2 Titans down. Once our team was leveled up, our next stop is the first Team Star Raid. Here we meet Clive, a fellow student with a grey beard. Look, if Ash Ketchum has been 10 for the last 25 years, then this guy has been 10 for the last 60 years. Anyway, Clive, along with a suspicious phone hacker, Cassiopeia, will be helping us in raiding all 5 Team Star bases. To overthrow a base, we have to defeat the base boss. In this case, that's Giacomo, the Dark-type DJ. His Pawniard lead isn't too much trouble, with a few water guns from Weasel taking care of it. But Giacomo's final Pokemon is this giant car with a giant HP bar. I was wearing it down slowly, but my team was being slaughtered. One by one, Ash's beloved Pokemon fell, and sadly, we lost. Another L, but this time to a vehicle. Feels bad, man. I needed a way to beat up some Dark-type Pokemon, and thankfully, there was a solution sitting right in my PC. Our little Riolu. I spent the next hour giving Riolu a load of baths and running around with it until it loved me enough to evolve into a deadly Lucario. This thing is a beast and one of Ash's best Pokemon. So, with our new fighting Steel type, I stepped up to Giacomo for a rematch, and it was a bloodbath. Lucario went in there, threw down a few Aura Spheres, slapping Giacomo and his stupid car into the mud. It was a brutal beatdown. With my thirst for revenge quenched, Ash had crushed his first Team Star base. In search of the next badge, I headed back to the other side of the map and found a Tauros, except this one looks a little different from Ash's Raging Bulls. That's because this is the new form, whereas Ash has the OG Kanto form. And since I can only use Ash's Pokemon in their correct form, sadly, we won't be able to fill Ram Ranch with 30 Tauros this time around. Oh god! After recovering from that ramming, I went back and viciously slaughtered as many bulls as possible to grind EXP. Sweet, sweet revenge. After some adventuring, I'd made it to the town of Levincia. I tried to find some new clothes here, but never mind. Now it was time for the next gym, but before that, Nimona challenges us to a battle. She's only a champion, whereas Ash is a double champion. So naturally, this wasn't too tough, with Pikachu terastallizing and electrocuting her Quaxwell for the win. That clears us to face the electric leader, Iono. But this one is going to be tough, because nearly half of my team are weak to electric. Phanpy is a ground type, but also has no ground moves yet, so I was in a really tough spot, until I had an idea. A very cheesy idea, but you'll see. These are the 4 Pokemon I decided on. Iono uses me for content, which is absolutely repulsive. What kind of twisted person would use Ash Ketchum for content? Anyway, after slapping her Simps around, it was time to battle the Stream Queen. She leads with a goofy Wattrel, so I go with my Rockruff. I take huge damage in the process, but with a super effective Rock Throw, as well as a Bite, we pick up an early KO. The Chunky Frog Belly Bolt is next, and it immediately drowns my pup with a water gun. Now it's time for Lucario to shine, and I immediately terastallize before throwing down a huge Aura Sphere. It does big damage, but isn't enough, with a spark from Belly Bolt crippling my Lucario. Fortunately, another Aura Sphere on the next turn is enough to finish that frog, as well as the Luxio that follows. It was down to a 3v1, but Iono's Mismagius is deadly. Its stats are insane, and once it terastallizes into an electric type, it has no weaknesses. Lucario was able to do solid damage, but sadly fell from there. And from here, our remaining Pokemon stood no chance. or so it would seem. But now it was time for the cheese. Iono's Mismagius only knows 2 damaging moves, Charge Beam and Hex. Charge Beam won't hit my Phanpy since it's a ground type, and Hex can't hit Staravia because it's a part normal. So I can continuously pivot between our 2 remaining Pokemon, slowly draining Mismagius's PP. Nope. Denied. Keep trying, I'm sure you'll get me soon enough. Once it's out of PP, we're clear to take Mismagius down, securing a disgusting win over Iono, as well as our 3rd badge. To celebrate the win, our Phanpy evolved into a mighty Donphan. This guy is adorable, and I won't be told otherwise. Tell me, do you seek to become a champion? I keep telling you all, I'm already a champion. By leveling up our Rockruff just as the sun sets, our pup evolves into a deadly Dusk form Lycanroc. This is a certified good boy and an absolute beast of a Pokemon. The timing of getting our upgraded Pokemon couldn't be better, as our next objective is raiding the Fire-type Team Starbase. The boss this time is Mela, and she leads with a Torkoal, who sets up the sun with its drought ability. So I go with our brand new Lycanroc, Terrastalize, and fire off a big Rock Throw. It doesn't get the KO, so I end up taking huge damage from a crit Flame Wheel. However, on the next turn, a priority Accelerock can finish it off. Last is Mela's Revavroom, and Lycanroc is able to land 2 more Accelerocks before finally falling. Good doggy. Now it was Buizel's time to shine, and never mind. Donphan took over, and like an Autobot, it was time to roll out. This is a move that gets stronger every time it lands. So even though my first one did nothing, Donphan was able to clutch up and survive for 3 turns, with the 3rd rollout doing enormous damage, squashing Mela's car. After that performance, I've got to say, I'm a fan of Donphan. Let me know in the comments if you are too. With Mela in the mud, that's another raid done. Turns out the next Titan is nearby, and it's this goofy and girthy looking thing. And what's the best way to deal with a worm? That's right, furries. Honestly, my Lucario absolutely beat Orthworm to a pulp. It was quick and clean. That's 3 Titans down. In the surrounding area, I was able to find Ash's next Pokemon, Torkoal. I adore this little crybaby, and it's such a Chad that it even beat a Registeel. This right here is my homie. Our next stop is the town of Cascarafa, where the next gym awaits. I want to get ice cream! I want to sit down! Yep, those are pretty much my 2 moods as well. As we approach the gym, the leader, Kofu, runs away scared. Honestly, I don't blame him for being scared of the toughest 10-year-old around. My Buizel tried to evolve, but don't you even think about it. Ash never had a Floatzel, so sadly, our Buizel will have to stay as a tiny little weasel. While chasing Kofu down, I found a Thunderbolt TM, which Pikachu would absolutely love. Once we catch up to him, he's talking to flowers? I hope he gets the help that he needs. How does a quillfish walk? I need a scientist to explain this to me. Anyway, after spending $35,000 on seaweed, we'd completed the gym test and were clear to take on Kofu. But before that, I did some training. Look at my chubby little mouse just floating on the water. Oh my god, a Raichu! What a hideous insult to Pikachu everywhere. Only cowardly rats take the Thunderstone. After a little more training, I was ready to take on Kofu. He only uses 3 Pokemon, so I decided to bring these heroes. Kofu opens up with Veluza, and I immediately Terrastalize Pikachu. This boosts my electric moves, and a single Thunderbolt fries that fishy's brain. Next is Wugtrio, who outspeeds me and uses Headbutt. Hey, that's not fair! It has 3 heads! That's gotta be triple the power! Regardless, Headbutt is fine as long as it doesn't make me flinch. You've got to be kidding me. The 3-headed Headbutt is too powerful. This means that Pikachu falls before getting to Thunderbolt Wugtrio, and basically, now my strategy is out the window. Some luck finally did go my way though, as Wugtrio was paralyzed by Pikachu's static ability, and Wugtrio was fully paralyzed on the next turn. So, Lucario could fire off the 2 Aura Spheres needed to finish Wugtrio without taking any damage. Now Kofu was down to his Crab. Crabominable is a physical attacker, so I immediately switch into Staravia, as this fires off an Intimidate. Determined to nerf this Crab, I pivot around to Lucario, then back into Staravia to lower Crabominable's attack once more before Staravia falls. Now it was down to a 1v1, my furry versus Kofu's Crab. Sadly, my Aura Sphere wasn't enough to get the KO, and Lucario was at low health. Crabominable fired off a huge Crab Hammer, and we just hung on. This lets Lucario hit one more Aura Sphere on the next turn, crushing the crab, and Ash had secured a very clutch win. That's 4 badges down. How on earth did you pull that off? Oh, it's probably all this plot armor that I'm wearing. After mercilessly beating up 5 trainers in the desert, this guy gives us the Earthquake TM, which is just what Donphan needs. With our upgraded elephant, it was time to tackle the next team starbase. The leader, Atticus, uses poison types, and this is where Donphan becomes a hero. Because with a string of powerful earthquakes, Donphan is able to demolish Skuntank, Revavroom, and Muck. This left Atticus with only his big Revavroom, but we weren't out of the woods yet. Donphan could land one more earthquake before our hero finally fell. I then slowly chipped away at Revavroom with our remaining Pokemon, but Ash's team was crumbling. That is, until Lycanroc, who just survived long enough to land 3 Terra-boosted Accelerocs, finally finishing off Atticus's team. With another team starbase defeated, we learn that Atticus is the one designing the team outfits. Ah, so he's the genius who designed Mella's boots to be way too high. Anyway, on our way to the next gym, we found Ash's next Pokemon, an adorable little Snorunt. Just, don't steal my badges, please. And soon after, we found another one, Ash's baby shark, Gibble. I love this guy. He chomps on people's heads, and look how adorable he is while being scolded by Togekiss. Cute, but deadly. Eventually, I made it to the town of Medali. While training my Pokemon, Staravia evolved into Staraptor, and I absolutely love this bird. But we weren't done yet, because soon after that, I was able to catch another of Ash's Pokemon, Primeape. Local hat thief, and one of Ash's most forgotten Pokemon. Just look at Primeape absolutely decking this Charmander and tell me that this guy isn't a Chad. Anyway, once my training was done, we were ready for the next gym. I assembled a squad to take on Larry's normal types, then ordered the super secret local dish to complete my gym test. Then, all of these people are just zapped into the ether. RIP, I guess? That clears us to take on Larry the Salaryman. Honestly, he might be my favorite character in the entire game. He leads with a cute little koala, and Lucario just falls short of getting the KO with Aura Sphere. Then, Kamala uses Yawn in an effort to put me to bed. I desperately need Lucario awake, so switch into Staraptor. A slam does decent damage, before a quick attack on the next turn finishes the cute koala. Next up is the freak abomination known as the Dunsparce. It looks ridiculous, but it packs a huge punch, taking Staraptor out with a Hyper Drill. Although, I did get it low enough for Pikachu to come in and clean up the disgusting slug with a quick attack. This left only Staraptor. We both Terra our Pokemon, and a boosted Thunderbolt deals about 1/3 damage while also getting the paralysis before Pikachu is crushed by a single facade. It was a 1v1. Lucario against Staraptor. However, I planned for this, and Lucario can clean up the fight with just one super effective Aura Sphere. Lucario has been a hard carry so far, and earns us our 5th badge. Wow, I never knew Ash was so terrified of rice balls. Larry even pays for our meal too. What a gentleman. Immediately once we step outside, we're ambushed by Nemona for a battle. Problem is, we don't have a chance to change our team, so we've only got the 3 Pokemon that we had in the gym. Nemona leads with Lycanroc, and as is tradition, she immediately gets the flinch with Bite. You fool, you activated my trap card. The flinch triggers Lucario's steadfast ability, boosting my speed. This means on the next turn, I move first and an Aura Sphere can slap that dog into the dirt. Good riddance. Lucario falls just short of finishing Pormo with an Aura Sphere before I'm paralyzed by Thunder Wave. Since this lowers my speed, I'm no longer faster, so opt for a priority Vacuum Wave, which thankfully lands, giving us another KO. But Lucario wasn't done yet, as a few Aura Spheres can also send Nemona's little ball of goo to the Shadow Realm. This left only her hot-stepping Quaquaval. This is where things get dicey. It gets a critical hit, finally finishing my Lucario, while also boosting its speed. Now it was Pikachu's time to shine, and... oh. Never mind. We were down to a 1v1 standoff, and since Quaquaval had terastallized, it was no longer weak to my Staraptor's flying moves. Staraptor tried, but it wasn't enough, as a second Aqua Step finishes me off. In classic Ash Ketchum fashion, we lost to our rival again. If we keep losing to Nemona, how on earth would we stand a chance against the final boss who has a full team of incredibly powerful Pokemon? This challenge wasn't going to be easy, but Ash isn't one to give up, so we pressed on. I was bound for the next gym, and after a trek through the snow, we made it to Montenevera. So chilly! Well, don't stand on the ice then, idiot! The next gym is here, and while preparing, we had a ton of Pokemon evolve, like Fletchinder into Talonflame, Goomy into a slightly bigger Goomy, Snorunt into Glalie, and Weasel into... psych, you'll never get to evolve. The upcoming gym is special since it's a double battle. We would definitely need some strategy, which isn't Ash's specialty. I carefully picked my 4 Pokemon before stepping up to the leader. I tried to take on Rhyme in a rap battle, but she was probably scared of the absolute heat I was about to spit, so we battled Pokemon instead. I lead with my Staraptor, as this immediately intimidates both of Rhyme's Pokemon. Staraptor quickly hits Mimikyu with an Aerial Ace, breaking its disguise ability. We take big damage from an icy wind, but then my other lead, Donphan, fires off a big earthquake. This hits everyone on the field, except for Staraptor since it's a flying type. This means that both of Rhyme's Pokemon take big damage. Then on the next turn, we repeat the process, and Donphan picks up a double KO this time around. This left Rhyme with only her Toxtricity and Houndstone. My Staraptor was immediately crushed by Discharge, and Donphan was on death's doorstep, but just managed to land one more earthquake. I went with Talonflame next, and this bird is my secret weapon. See, it can Terra into a normal type, losing its weakness to electric, while also becoming immune to ghost. I get Houndstone low with a flame charge, before Toxtricity wipes out Donphan with Hyper Voice. Houndstone then disappears for a turn using Phantom Force, so I have both my Lycanroc and Talonflame target Toxtricity. With a super effective bite from our Rocky Doggy, Toxtricity goes down. Houndstone lands its Phantom Force, but we survive comfortably, and on the following turn, a final flame charge finishes the job, giving us the win. How about a VIP pass for my next show? No, just the gym badge is fine, thank you. With our big brain strats, we'd gotten badge number 6. Our next objective was the 4th Titan. Hey, wait a minute, it looks like you! Yep, that over there is my great
2,000 years later.
Great Grandpappy Tusk. We'll have to take down the ancient Donphan known as the Great Tusk. I pivot between Staraptor and Pikachu, as this lets me nerf it into the ground with 3 Intimidates. Then, it's time for a little family reunion. The future is now, old man. Our Donphan can just hold out long enough to land a 3rd Earthquake, burying its ancient ancestor. With Arven's help, Staraptor annihilates it in the 2nd phase, slaughtering the 4th Titan in record time. My plan was to turn our attention towards wrapping up the final 2 gym badges, but before that, I went and hunted down Ash's next Pokemon, Noibat. Look at those adorable ears. Our next catch took me an eternity to find, but after a long grind, I finally stumbled across Howlucha, one of Ash's coolest and bestest pals. Look at this absolute Giga Chad Pokemon. I love this guy, and on top of that, this Howlucha is special. It can Terra into a bug type, and Ash's Howlucha knows X-Scissor, making it an awesome combo. After reaching the town of Alphanata, I decided to take on the gym, except Nemona had other plans. I was not ready for this battle, and half of my team were Pokemon that I wanted to train. It was still close, and came right down to the wire. I was about to win with Torkoal, but of course, Pneumonia always hacks the RNG. I was fully paralyzed, while her paralyzed Quaquaval had no trouble at all landing its attacks. GG, I hate you. Again, I guess it's fitting that Ash is spending all season being crushed by his rival. After passing a gym test so simple that even Ash's 2 tiny brain cells could manage it, we were ready for the next leader. Being the ladies' man that he is, Ash quickly seduces Tulip before absolutely stomping her psychic types. This one really wasn't close. Staraptor outlasted the hooded giraffe, Lucario steel beamed Gardevoir into the next dimension, and our Rocky Doggy cleaned up the last 2 Pokemon with some bites. Too easy, that's Ash's penultimate badge. And from here, it's pretty much straight onto the last gym for Ash to try and earn the final badge. I stacked my team before shredding these slopes on the back of Koraidon, clearing us to take on the Ice-type user, Crusher. Let me tell you, this was a slaughter. Lycanroc immediately crushed Frostmoth with an Accelerock, and from there, it's Lucario time. My Metal Furry went absolutely wild, crushing all of Grush's Pokemon one after another. My plot armor is just unmatched. That's an easy 8th badge, and we had some real momentum. However, the remaining fights were the hardest yet, and Ash's toughest challenge was still ahead. To help with that, I needed to get more of Ash's Pokemon. Now that we have 8 gym badges, we've unlocked 4-star Terra Raids, and these are the only way that we can find 2 of Ash's Pokemon, Krokorok and Muck. So, I spent literally hours refreshing the raid search screen, waiting for one of these to show up. And to make matters worse, when a Krokorok finally did show up, I couldn't connect to the raid. Although, I did spot a Heracross raid which I managed to join. And after being carried through the raid battle, we'd caught a Heracross. Look at this cutie. Although, it's not so cute when it's literally drinking a Bulbasaur that is cursed. I went back to raid hunting, and no exaggeration, I spent hours doing this and made 0 progress. So, I said screw it and decided to tweak the rules, which is fitting because Ash breaks the rules all the time. I mean, he beat Brock by breaking the gym's fire sprinklers. Anyway, I was going to make an exception and allow myself to catch a Sandile and Grimer. With a little training, Grimer evolved into Ash's Muck. What an affectionate little ball of sludge. Soon after, Sandile evolved, and we also had Ash's Krokorok, who, shortly after, evolved once more into a deadly Crocodile. Look at this absolute Chad rocking the glasses. I think this is my favorite Ash Pokemon, although Crocodile gets incredibly sad without its glasses, so you damn well know the first thing I did was charge over to the store, buy a fresh pair of glasses, and give them to our boy. And hey, since we're in the spirit of tweaking rules, let's talk about Gengar. In this game, Gengar is only obtainable via trade. While Ash didn't technically own a Haunter, he did travel with one. So since there were no other options, I caught a Haunter and traded it for this beautiful pig. You better do what it says. After trading back, we had Ash's Gengar. I love this Pokemon, and Ash's one has an insane moveset, so I'm glad to have it on the roster. With a new and improved team, it was time for our 4th Team Star raid. This boss in the frilly pink suit is Ortega, a Fairy-type user. And Pikachu went kinda nuts here. He dodged an Aqua Tail from Azumarill, and then finished it with a second Thunderbolt. Next is Ortega's Wigglytuff, and Pikachu hits a huge Iron Tail. Although, he fell for Wigglytuff's cute charm, and spent a turn being a simp before falling. From here, the fight was clean, with Donphan earthquaking its way through Ortega's next 2 Pokemon before our big hunk of sludge makes its debut. With a few mukbang sludge bombs, the Starmobile was crushed, and we'd conquered another Team Star boss. The pace doesn't slow down, as we immediately go and take on the final Titan, and our boy Pikachu was still on a roll, absolutely crushing Dondozo with some supercharged Thunderbolts. With the final mystical herb secured, Arven's Mabastiff is healed, and that melts my heart. We get a call from Sada, who wants us to swing by her lab. We'll get to that later, but for now, we had our final Team Star raid ahead of us. But before that, there were only 3 more Pokemon left to complete our Ash Dex. First is Noivern, who we can quickly get by evolving our cute little Noibat. The next one is not so simple though. I had to run around for ages trying to find some rainy weather. This took way too long, but once I did, we could level up our Sliggoo and have it evolve into a glorious gooey Goodra. But then, something unexpected happened, because I found a shiny. Luxray looks incredible, and it's an awesome Pokemon, so this was an amazing find. Except, Ash doesn't have a Luxray, so I had no choice but to send in the Don and crush that sparkly abomination with an Earthquake. F's in the chat for another shiny lost. After drying my tears, there was only one Pokemon left to catch, and I've saved one of the best for last. Dragonite. This guy could be found flying around in the northern area, and eventually I spotted one. It took a little while to get close enough to line up a throw, but once I did, we were able to catch our Dragonite. Look at its goofy smile, and I have no idea how those tiny wings keep this chunky boy airborne. That doesn't matter though, because look at how adorable it is. With that, we'd completed our first goal of completing the Ash Dex. Now, all that was left to do was beat the game using only Ash's Pokemon with all our insane restrictions. I spent ages upgrading our moves, but with an absolutely stacked roster of Ash's Pokemon, I was ready to take on the final Team Star boss, Eri and her fighting types. I lead with our new Dragonite and set up a Dragon Dance, but was badly poisoned by Toxicroak. I was able to take it out with 2 Dragon Claws, but Dragonite was so low that it fell to Annihilate. Gengar picked up a quick revenge KO with Psychic before Eri sent out Lucario. This is a bad matchup for me, so I switched into Staraptor, and a single close combat finished Lucario. But our bird wasn't done yet, with Passimian falling to a single Brave Bird. Eri's Starmobile was all that remained, but this thing is deadly. It immediately removed Staraptor and took out Howlucha after trading blows. Although, at this range, Gengar is clear to come in and finish the fight with one last Psychic. Eri was defeated, and all the Team Star bases were crushed. We did still have to take on the Team Star Super Boss, but we'll come back to that. For now, Ash headed over to Sada's lab to meet up with Arven. Once inside, Sada calls us and asks us to bring the Scarlet book to the bottom of the Paldea crater. But since the crater is dangerous, Arven decides to test our strength in battle. Let me ask you this: who would win, the pseudo-legend, almighty Dragonite, or a fat squirrel? Well, this chubby nuisance paralyzed me, and Dragonite was unable to move for 3 turns in a row. That is absurd, and my Dragonite actually lost to this thing. How embarrassing. It even nearly killed my Lucario too, but my furry did edge it out. Next was Arven Scovillain, who immediately crushed Lucario. This was not going smooth, and I needed a hero. Send in the Howlucha. Being the absolute Chad that it is, Howlucha then proceeded to decimate Arven's next 4 Pokemon with some us-us combos. What a terrifying beast you are. Arven was down to only his dog, who did put up a good fight, but ultimately, our mascot Pikachu gave it some shock therapy with a Thunderbolt sealing a close win. That ends the Path of Legends questline, but before we can explore the crater, we'll have to finish up the other two storylines first. So I headed to the school to confront the super boss of Team Star, but we're stopped by Clive, who reveals himself to be Director Clavel. Look, it may have been obvious to you, but there's no way that Ash Ketchum suspected that. Anyway, we have to battle him, but this one's pretty straightforward, and we clean up his team no problem. However, now we have to take on the Team Star Ultra Boss, Penny. This one is not easy. She's got a diverse team of powerful evolutions, so I needed to bring my A game. Now, bow down before my overwhelming might. It's kind of hard to be intimidated by you when you've got the cutest, fluffiest backpack ever. Penny leads with Umbreon, so I go with Howlucha and fire off a huge high jump kick. It doesn't KO, but after Howlucha tanks a Psychic, a flying press on the next turn gets the job done. Now she sends in Jolteon, and I know that an electric move is coming, so switch into the Don, who soaks up those volts like it's nothing. Within a few turns, Jolteon is easily buried by Earthquake. This brings out Vaporeon, so I switch again, this time into Torkoal, who sets up the Sun, nerfing Vaporeon's water moves. I land a little damage with Flamethrower and Overheat, but Torkoal quickly falls. However, now it's time for our ketchup-loving mascot to shine, as two Thunderbolts clean up Vaporeon. We then spend the next few turns trading Pokemon back and forth, but once Penny's Leafeon is on the field, it's Muck's time to shine. I terrestrialize our ball of toxicity, and a big stinky sludge bomb can remove Leafeon. Now Penny was down to only her Sylveon. We trade blows back and forth, and Muck did go down first. However, his Martyrdom perk was active because from the grave, he did finish Sylveon with some residual poison damage. Good job, Muck. Team Star all reunite, and it's a wholesome moment. Moral of the story, the power of friendship can achieve anything when combined with an unlimited pool of stolen money. Bullying was killed forever, and the Team Star questline was all wrapped up. That left only the Elite Four, where we would find out if Ash Ketchum could become a Paldean champion. Although, we do have to conduct an interview first, and let's be honest, Ash would have no hope of passing. Please, have a seat. Oh, really? You mean I can keep it? I'm sorry to say you didn't pass. By way of a miracle, Ash passed the test on the next try, and we were clear to battle the Elite Four. But these battles really weren't too much of a challenge for Ash. Against Rika's ground types, Heracross and our king, Donphan, did a lot of the heavy lifting, slowly dismantling her team, before our Ice Ball Glalie delivered the final blow. Poppy's steel types were more of a challenge, and we continuously traded Pokemon back and forth throughout the battle. Ultimately, it came down to a 1v1 between Poppy's Tinkaton and Donphan. But like it's done so much in this run, Donphan clutched up, tanking a Gigaton Hammer before landing a huge Earthquake for the victory. The second half of the Elite Four is where I went absolutely wild. Look, I love Larry, but I'm about to end this man's whole career. Glalie quickly finishes off Tropius with a 4 times effective Ice Beam and is then promptly taken out by Staraptor. But now it was Crocodile's time to hunt. After just tanking a close combat, Crocodile finishes Staraptor with a Stone Edge. Here's the interesting part though, because I have the ability Moxie, Crocodile's attack is increased with each KO, so the incoming Altaria also dies to a boosted Stone Edge, giving me an even bigger boost. With this insane momentum, Crocodile easily wiped out the remainder of Larry's team. Next up is the Dragon Master, Hassel, and let me tell you, Crocodile was not done yet, because this absolute madman went and did the exact same thing again, with a string of Dragon Claws ripping through Hassel's whole team. I started to feel a little bad for the old geezer by the end. It was over in the blink of an eye, and Crocodile had claimed another victim. With the Elite Four easily disposed of, Ash stood before the top champion, Geeta, and finally, we would find out whether Ash Ketchum could become a Paldean champion. Geeta leads with a Spartha, and unsurprisingly, I stay with my Crocodile. We're hit by a huge dazzling gleam, but a super effective crunch takes it down. This gives us a Moxie boost, but this still wasn't enough to one-shot Go-Goat, and sadly, Crocodile fell. However, now it was time for Howlucha to be a hero, with a single X-Scissor finishing Go-Goat, and a high jump kick immediately crushing King Gambit. Howlucha also did enormous damage to Veluza, but fell just short, going down to a Psycho Cut. Despite that, Howlucha's heroics had put us in a great spot. Pikachu could easily electrify that fish's brain, with Lucario cleaning up the Avalugg that followed. All of a sudden, Geeta was down to only her Glamora, who lands a massive Earth Power, but Lucario just hangs on before firing off a Steel Beam to crush Geeta's final Pokemon, giving us the win. With that, Ash Ketchum was a Paldean champion. Except, we still hadn't beaten Pokemon Scarlet because there were 2 incredibly tough fights still to come. The The first of these is Nemona, and just like the anime, my rival has crushed me throughout the season, so I was determined to settle the score in our final showdown. I lead with Staraptor, and an Intimidate onto Lycanroc means I can just survive the Stone Edge before close combating that puppy straight to the pound. This baits out Nemona's Pawmot, and I know an electric attack is coming, so switch into Crocodile, who is immune. And now I expect a close combat, so switch again into Gengar, who's immune to fighting. Pivoting 101, baby. Now with Gengar in, I quickly land a super effective Psychic for an instant KO on the far inferior Electric Mouse. By continuing to take advantage of my type synergies like that, I was able to clean up Orthworm, Goodra, and a Dunsparce all in quick succession. Pneumonia was down to only her Quaquaval, and this thing has some insane sweeping potential. But I had a plan. After Howlucha fell, I sent out Staraptor to land an Intimidate, but then I immediately switch into Gengar, basically sacrificing our spooky ghost. Then I go right back into Staraptor, landing yet another Intimidate, as well as a quick attack before going down. Now, it was all up to our ketchup-loving mascot, Pikachu. I terrestrialize our mouse, as Nemona charged up a big Aqua Step, and Pikachu just hangs on due to the attack drops before firing off an enormous Thunderbolt, giving us the KO and some revenge on our rival right at the end of the season. Classic Ash Ketchum move. With that, only one battle remained, but it was going to be the hardest one yet. But first, we have to explore the Paldea crater with Arven, Nemona, and Kid with the fluffy Eevee bag. Ew, look at all these gross Raichu. In this house, we stand Pikachu. Oh god, a Jigglypuff! Don't listen to its... Damn it, it got me again! You good, Nemona? There's that damn Jigglypuff! Quick, kill it! Soon after, we reached the final lab to disable the fourth lock. A large gas canister has fallen over. Oh, that can't be... Further down the crater, we reach Lab 0 and confront Sada, who's actually a robot. She's the final boss of the game, and her team is insane. It's full of Paradox Pokemon, with stat totals that rival pseudo-legends. And on my side, I had some of Ash's most iconic Pokemon. This would be the final showdown to determine whether Ash Ketchum could really beat Pokemon Scarlet. Sada leads with Slitherwing, so I go with Staraptor and can pick up a quick KO with a quite effective Aerial Ace. Sada sends in her Fairy Ghost, Fluttermane next, and I thought it would go for Power Gem against my Staraptor. It did not. Instead, I sent out my Lucario in front of an incoming Thunderbolt, which did huge damage. And since Fluttermane is so fast, on the next turn, my Lucario went down. We were in a tough spot, and I didn't really have much choice other than sending out Crocodile. My Croc somehow survives 2 Mystical Fires before picking up the KO with a second Crunch. Next up is... Oh, it's you again. I didn't have any great options for dealing with Screamtail, but it's a physical attacker, so I switch into Staraptor for a quick Intimidate. Screamtail hits me with an Ice Punch, and I was frozen. Are you kidding me? Luckily, Staraptor thawed out at the end of the turn, buying it enough time to land 2 Aerial Aces. Problem is, Staraptor is on the brink of death, and I need to keep it alive. So I switch into our boy Pikachu, who lands an Iron Tail, as well as a Big Thunder, but just falls short of getting the KO. Our mascot fell, but Pikachu's death wasn't for nothing, because at this range, one quick attack from Staraptor can clean up Screamtail. Next up, Sada sends in this weird-looking thing, and I'm expecting an electric move, so switch into my Crocodile. This works out, but sadly, we're outsped and hit by a crit on the next turn, crushing my Croc. The situation was grim. It was a 3v3, but my Staraptor was on death's doorstep. I had no real choice but to send in Gengar. My Shadow Ball does just less than half, and then Sandy Shocks hit a super effective Earth Power, and we just managed to hang on. Problem is, one more Shadow Ball won't be enough for the KO. Except I had a plan. By terrestrializing our Gengar into an even spookier ghost, our Shadow Ball gets a boost, meaning that this one is enough to slaughter the Ancient Kiss impersonator. Next up is the very sussy Brute Bonnet. My Howlucha is a great counter, so I switch in, and a quite effective Flying Press quickly murders that mushroom. Now Sada was down to only her ace, Roaring Moon, but this thing is a demon. Its stats are insane, and it gets an attack boost thanks to its ability. My team was on the ropes, and probably about to get swept. I was low on options, so switched into Staraptor to land an Intimidate onto Roaring Moon, before being hit by a Dragon Claw, and... Staraptor hung on out of sheer love. That right there is my Ash Ketchum plot armor kicking in. Staraptor surviving is huge because it means that I can switch into Gengar, who dies immediately, but importantly, I can then bring Staraptor back out, landing another Intimidate nerf. Although Staraptor immediately falls, and it was down to a 1v1, the Ancient Dragon versus Chad Lucha. I land a high jump kick for enormous damage, but it's not enough to get the KO. Roaring Moon then hits a Dragon Claw, and we barely survive thanks to those Intimidates, allowing Howlucha to hit an X-Scissor, finishing Roaring Moon, and giving us an insanely clutch win. With that, Ash Ketchum had beaten Sada and conquered all of Pokemon Scarlet. Jump into this video next for more Pokemon content. Like the video to send prayers for my missed shiny, and let me know in the comments which Pokemon of Ash's is your favorite. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.